Okay, so today we're going to be replacing our serpentine belt as well as our AC belt. I got both gates complete kits, so we're going to be replacing not only the belts but also the pulleys and idlers. So we're going to start off just by removing the intake tube. This has got an aftermarket one, but that's okay. Just take our flathead. Loosen that guy up a little bit. Probably easier to get this one out instead. Loosen that one too. And then we'll pop her off. Okay, so with that removed, we have a lot more room to work with. And we're going to take a 15mm socket on a breaker bar, ratchet, whatever. We're just going to put it on to that idler. We're going to pull down and we can kind of see with a lot more slack now. We can actually work that off. We're going to pull it off of that pulley as well, just to get ourselves more room. We'll pause here again. All right. Now we can actually go ahead and pull our belt off. Since this is a 2006 Yukon Denali, we actually have the electric cooling fan, so we don't have to deal with the whole clutch fan. We have a ton of room to work in here. So we'll take that out. Some people like to make a little diagram to try to remember the routing for the belt, but we actually still have that here. So right there, dotted one will be our AC belt. And might be able to get that one now. We're going to take a 3/8 ratchet. Let's see if we can get down in here with it. And it looks like we're probably going to need an extension on that one. So let's pause, get an extension. Alright, so we have our extension now. Let's see if we can get it in there. Perfect. We have it in there. We can kind of just try to sneak the belt off. There we are. Plenty of room to spare. Toss that aside. All right, so now taking our idler and pulley off on the top side will actually be pretty easy. We'll have to cross the bridge and get into the bottom ones in a second. All right, so we're going to take our 15 on our breaker bar again. Get that guy started. And give her a couple more spins there. Kind of tough to get just with a hand in it, but you can kind of see it spin now. Okay, so we have our pulley off. Let's see if we can get our idler off next, and I guess I shouldn't have that extension on. If this will focus, we'll be in good shape. Maybe not. Alright, let's give her a go here. Maybe not. Okay, so we have our tensioner pulley off and our idler off. The top side was pretty easy. The short bolt goes on the bottom of these, so I just keep track of that. Tougher one might be getting to this tensioner pulley for the AC. So we might have to get creative on that one. Okay, so taking a peek down there, there are two 15mm bolts. They're really tough to see. I have the breaker bar on one of them. I did. You almost got to kind of just work by feel down there. I don't know if I can get the camera in here. Let's see. Looks like we have one right here. There's actually one up under it here. So some guys like to take off. Some guys like to take off the skid plate on the bottom. I'm going to try to avoid that. So let's see what we can do. All right, and I was able to sneak the breaker bar onto the right side bolt. I already have the left one broken loose. This will get fun. There's not much room to move down here. All right, you can see it's kind of wiggling a little bit. Maybe see if we can get a hand down there. Not so much. Okay, so I was able to sneak a 3-inch extension onto a 15, and I can actually get it by hand. Take those off. So we'll get those taken off now. And if we actually take off the one on the right side first, I'm thinking we might be able to. We can actually. We can swing that tensioner pulley down a little bit. Hopefully I have a little easier time with it. They definitely don't make this one easy. Alright, so we finally got it out. Set that bolt aside. Kind of tough to see. I don't know if it can be heard. It sounds like it needs replacing, so we'll bust these things open and get to work. Okay, so here's our new one. Got a new belt also. We'll get to work putting this back on. Obviously it looks a lot nicer. So here we go. Okay, so we have the one side on, the left side bolt. So we're able to kind of let the tensioner move a little bit. Now we should be able to sneak the other one up on there. Again, with our 3-inch extension. Let's see if we can get down in here somewhere. Kind of lift it up a little bit. It's pretty tough to see. There you can see a little bit of it. Anyway. We have that guy going in. So we'll finish tightening those in, and then those actually get torqued to 37 pounds, foot-pounds rather. So we'll take care of that now. So we're just about done. We'll get it torqued to 37 foot-pounds. Right there. Now we can put our belt back on. All right, so we're ready to put our belt back on. Before we put our ratchet in to pull our tensioner down, though, we probably have to sneak the belt around unless we want to deal with trying to get it over the ratchet. So set the ratchet aside. This guy shouldn't be too bad. Knowing that we have to go on the back set of ridges down there. All right, so the easiest way to do this is actually going to be to route it around the crank pulley on the engine and then actually on the tensioner before trying to get it onto the AC compressor. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of issues trying to get it actually onto the tensioner. So now we can pull it down. Just sneak her right on there. All right, and there she is on there. Important to make sure that the pulley has the belt centered on it down there, and we look good. So AC side is done. Now we can actually handle the drive belt. There's a lot more room on this one, but it's going to be the same thing. All these bolts get torqued to 15 foot-pounds, or 15, I'm sorry, they're 15 millimeters. They get torqued to 37 foot-pounds. So we'll get that put on now too. All right, we'll do the idler pulley. These are a little bit easier to get to. We're still going to torque them correctly, but I'm just going to, oh, maybe I'm not going to help her on with the impacts. I can't get it in there. We'll start spinning. Now we can snug it up with the impact. There's that one. Already have our torque wrench set to 37 foot-pounds. There we are. That is that one done. And our new tensioner. Remembering that our small bolt goes on the bottom here. Get that guy started. Get this top one started. Get our kind of hidden one up on the back there started as well. These I should be able to run in with this also, maybe. I'm purposely not using a lot of torque on the impact, just so I make sure I get them in right. So now we'll go with our 37 foot-pounds again. So we have that one, bottom one, and finally this kind of hidden one in the back. There we are. Now we have our breaker bar. Probably is a good idea to actually have the breaker bar about parallel to the ground when you're pushing down, just so when you come back up, you're not going to get caught on that upper radiator hose. So, we'll move this stuff aside, and we can get this guy kind of routed here. So first things first, we're going to go around crank pulley. We're just going to work our way from bottom to top. Kind of seems easiest. Alrighty. Go backwards from there, down to our power steering pump. Making sure we don't slip off. Our power steering pump to our alternator. And now we can kind of see we're almost there. We actually don't have it right, so we got to go not onto that idler yet. There we go. So now we have all this slack here. I'm going to go with the belt behind that. We're going to sneak it onto that idler first. Push it down a lot more. Nope. Actually, we'll start a little bit higher on this guy. There we go. Make sure we're just centered on everything. Just so when we do start, we don't have any issues. looks like we're good to go. And there you have it. I'm not going to start this thing yet, and I'm not going to put the intake tube back on yet. I actually have to replace the radiator on this guy also, because we had a nice crack right back in that area. So that'll be a next video. Hopefully this helped.